What's happening, MJ traders and investors? It's Rod with the Pow Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ stocks, crypto assets, and interviews. Today is Wednesday, April 5th. Happy hump day. Hope you're doing awesome. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing American multi-state operators in the MJ space taking it on the chin. They were making fresh new lows today, and the MSO gang is nowhere to be found. Going to discuss that. We'll do some analysis. I'll give my thoughts and opinions on what we need to see in order to bottom out and why we're down so much, right? And obviously, it's been a rough couple of years in the MJ space. This is a brutal bear market, so I feel for everybody. I'm a retail investor just like every one of you, and I feel like I was put on this earth to pioneer this amazing industry and this medicine of the future. We really are in the first inning, and it's easy to get caught up in price, but I just want to reiterate that, we're so early, it's not even funny. And, I can definitely relate to everybody out there getting investor fatigue. It is rough. It's been a brutal couple of years in the space, but that's why it pays to diversify as well. But before we get to it, make sure to smash like, help support me in the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell. You'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. As I mentioned, it's been a brutal couple of years, and the MSO gang, they were just so loud and commenting on all of my videos. Didn't matter what video it was. If I did any video with regards to Canadian LPs, they would comment, they're garbage and the only thing worth owning is American producers. And needless to say, it's crickets now, right? We're not hearing anything. They've been humbled. Those MSO maximalists have been humbled by the market, because now we're seeing names down 80 to 90%, even the American names, right, from February 2021 highs and all-time highs. And again, it goes to show you that the sector moves together. It doesn't matter if they're profitable, unprofitable MJ companies. It doesn't matter if they are retailers, Canadian producers, American producers, ETFs. Everything is down 80 to 90% on average. And I've been saying I'm a huge advocate for this space, right? I have about 15 different MJ stocks, a mix of American producers, Canadian producers, retailers, ETFs, and I want all boats to rise together. I want all companies to do well. And this is just an example of how you can be humbled by the market, right? And a lot of people were anticipating that US MJ was going to be the only play in this space. And granted, Canadian names have dropped a lot more than the counterparts in the US, but now we're seeing the US companies catch up and act as laggards, right? And now they're dropping down between 80 and 90%. Truly was down over 90% from February 2021 highs, right? So just playing catch up. I did a couple of videos. If you haven't seen it, we need change. So again, this isn't a one or two companies in the Canadian space. This isn't one or two companies in the US space. This is a whole industry problem. And the reason for the brutal bear market that we're in right now is because of the fact that companies and countries are reluctant to change, right? And we know that big companies, big Fortune 500 companies like Uber and Amazon and all these other conglomerates and Fortune 500 companies they're not going to be comfortable getting involved into the space until it's rescheduled, descheduled. There's that stigma that's removed from the space, and it's going to take time. But I did a video on 280E. New Jersey is going through some legislation changes, potentially to remove 280E at the state level, which is really eating into a lot of the profits and revenue and bottom line on a lot of these U.S. operators. We also have the Canadian government set to review the MJ Act here in Canada. Justin Trudeau has already said himself that it's time for the Canadian government to catch up to the MJ industry. So I highly encourage you to check that out. But I do think that New Jersey operators are going to benefit greatly. I mentioned Curaleaf in there. That was a name that I added in my TFSA yesterday. I maxed out my TFSA for 2023. We had an extra $6,500 for Canadians. So if you're Canadian, that's what I did. I maxed it out. And any future purchases I'll be adding to my RRSP, my retirement account. We also had some news that the NBA will be letting players promote and invest in consume MJ, which is huge news. But again, this isn't, a lot of people were wondering why this didn't move the needle. How come we didn't see things explode after this news came out? Well, the reason is for that is because of the fact that we're in a bear market, and positive news just doesn't really change anything. It doesn't really move the needle, right? Because we're so bearish at the moment. We need something, a massive catalyst, right? Something like, legalization of medical, or rescheduling or descheduling, or a review of the 280E, or a review of the MJ Act here in Canada or Germany, or something like that that's going to really ignite the space, right? A massive catalyst that's going to ignite the space. And this just wasn't it. The NBA, I think everybody kind of knew that the NBA was very, progressive, and they were making leaps and bounds in this industry. And it was kind of to be expected, I think. But it's great news nonetheless, not downplaying any of that news. It's just not enough of a catalyst to make the industry rebound and knock us out of this bear market. What I think is going to be needed is some sort of review of the the MJ Act here in Canada, or the legislation in the US, specifically around taxation and potential rescheduling or even descheduling, with a review from HHS and DOJ, right? Also did a video on Tilray earnings April 10th next week after market close. So the industry will be looking at that, but I don't think it's going to be the end all be all. It might, move Tilray 10%, 5-10% in either direction, depending if they miss or beat. But you can check out that video if you want to learn more about the Tilray estimates, and did some analysis on that as well. There is a bear flag, and it's targeting below $2 USD and fresh new lows as well. So again, it's not just Canadian MJ, it's US operators. MSOS, the ETF today, hit an all-time low. And we had a daily bear flag back here with the lower high and lower low. And then anything under 753 was just a daily bear flag. And take a look at the measured move. If you move that line out here to the 0.382 fib, that gives you our measured move of the daily bear flag. And it said we were targeting about 525. And today we dropped down to 510. And actually in the recent newsletter that I released in that edition, I mentioned that MSOS could be a monster swing trade playing off $5 psychological. So again, this isn't financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only, but we met that daily bear flag target and actually exceeded it. And we're getting very, very close to that $5 support level. So you can start to scale in here. This is just a trade idea. Again, do your own research. This is not financial advice, for entertainment purposes only. But if you were to potentially scale in now, with a stop below $5, you could even do like 474, 449, something like that, and essentially risk 10 to 15% to make upwards of 50 to 100, maybe even 200% here, just going back to monthly resistance here on the monthly time frame. So monster swing trade could be setting up here on MSOS. Even for the long term, I think this is a great hold. But there's no shortage of good opportunities out there at the moment. TrueLeaf dropping down, potentially testing $6 today. We hit a low of $6.51. And if we take a look from the all-time high and the highs of February 2021, TrueLeaf is now down over 90%, right? Cresco, same deal. From the high to the low there, now down over 91%. And there's no shortage of these. You can look at GTII. It did hold up a little bit better, which is profitable. Now down over 81% from February 2021 and all-time highs, right? So again, it's just playing catch up to the rest of the sector. So if you're wondering when USMJ can bottom out, well, Canadian names are down. If you look at HMMJ, the ETF, it's down over 87%. If you look at a name like CGC from its February 2021 highs, it's now down over 97%. Tilray, as another example, in February 2021 to current new all-time lows, we're now down over 96%. Whoops. And if we take a look at Hexo down over 99% from February 2021 highs. So again, we're just playing catch up, these US names. So if you're wondering when we could potentially see a bottom, we could potentially drop another, 5, maybe even, 6-7% from here on some of these names, right? CureLeaf, another one from all-time highs, now down over 86%. So we could see another 5-10% on some of these names worth a decline if we are using the Canadian names as a benchmark and a possible, just gauge as to whether or not we could see more downside from here. And I do think that that's possible. But obviously, no one has a crystal ball. If we did, we'd all be on a yacht somewhere. But here's the deal. No one saw this brutal bear market coming, and you just need to change your mindset. MJ isn't going anywhere. It's not going to be phased out. It's going to be here for the long term. So the trick is to just diversify, find a mix of producers, retailers, ETFs, and American, Canadian companies that are going to benefit from international as well. And, don't invest any more than you're willing to lose, and continue to, that's what I'm doing, is just dollar cost averaging and continuing to change my mindset and to look at this and say, I could look at this and say that it's never going to recover and this is the worst industry, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, this is a once in a lifetime buying opportunity. And there's no shortage of people, like I said, commenting on my videos saying that, this MJ industry is never going to recover. It could be years, could be 5 to 10 years before we see any legislation changes in the US. That leads me to believe that it's likely closer than most people think, right? When most people are thinking that way, and retail investors, what do we know about retail? They're usually wrong, right? So when the majority, 80-90% of retail thinks a certain way, that has me optimistic, right? So just being that contrarian indicator. And like I said, I can't even count how many times I would do videos on Canadian names, and they would say, they were just taunting, saying that, this, Hexo or CGC or Tilray, they're down, 80-90% in the last year. look at the MSOs, they're holding up a lot better. They're the only thing worth owning, and now they were humbled by Mr. Market, right? And look at MSOS from its all-time high, now down over 90%, right? So even an ETF is down over 90%, right? But there's tons of tech names, right, that are out there. Like Netflix dropped 80% in a few months. So, and that's an established company, right? This is an industry that is still in the first inning. We're tip of the iceberg. We're so early, it's not even funny. So it's time to drop the tribalism. It's time to all get on each other's team. We're all working for the greater good here. And there's no need to be tribal, right? I want all American companies to do well. I want all Canadian companies to do well on a level playing field. We need change. We need changes to 280E, the MJ Act here in Canada. It said that anywhere from 30 to 50% of the company's revenue is going to taxes to the government. Obviously, the government's going to get paid. They're going to get paid first. They're going to get their cut, their piece of the pie. But it doesn't need to be that big, right? And eventually, just like the founder of Cureleaf said, Boris, he said that he believes that MJ companies are going to be high cash flowing businesses and they're going to offer lots of dividends in the future. And he said if it wasn't for 280E, Cureleaf would already be paying a dividend more than likely. They've already paid around $340 million to the US government. So pretty insane to think about. And again, just goes to show you how early we are. But going to end it there. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with me, disagree with me. When do you think we can see a bottom? What kind of catalyst do you think that it's going to take? Do you think it's going to take legalization of medical? Germany coming online after Easter potentially, seeing some news on that? Or, just overall descheduling from HHS, DOJ. What do you think is going to move the needle? What do you think is going to knock us out of this brutal bear market? I always love hearing from you. Going to end it there, though. It's Rod with Power Group. Thanks for joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth. And we'll see you in the next video.